We had someone, I think they wanted us to do like a perfume or a cologne. I'm like, look, hey, I appreciate the offer, man, but no one wants to smell like the Ghost Story Guys.
I smell quite nice.
I do too, but I just think the concept of Ghost Story Guys, you know, like, to me, that smells like the pub. And maybe a kebab.
It's midnight, and you're listening to the Ghost Story Guys.
Welcome to the Ghost Story Guys. I'm Brennan Storr.
I'm Paul Bestel.
And this is the show where we talk about spooks, specters, and all the other things watching us from the shadows beyond the campfire. Some conversations only make sense after the sun has set, and this is most definitely one. Thanks for tuning in. This is episode number 238, and we're coming to you from that tiny mountain cabin you dream about, but can never quite reach. Paul, my friend, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Sun's out, guns out. What more do we need?
Oh, how I would love some of that sun for me here. It is. I went to a restaurant in my neighborhood last night, which I have a story from there I'll tell you later. And then as I was walking home, as I told you, the rain, which was quite lovely, thickened into snow, which can fuck itself. And so I woke up this morning to a white London, Ontario, and nearly went out the window after it. I have even bigger problems than that, which I have been waiting to share with you. Although before I do that, I'll say, folks, we have a great set of listener stories lined up for you. We have some cool dream stories, as well as a couple different bits from former law enforcement officers, or in some cases, current law enforcement officers, who have some really, really spooky stuff to share. But before we do that, though, I want to dump this on you. So, Paul, today I was reminded that no matter how much internal work we do, there are some parts of ourselves that we are just powerless against. And I am powerless against my terrible addiction to raffle tickets. If you tried to mug me, I would probably fight you. But if you came up to me and said, for all the money in your wallet right now, I will sell you the equivalent amount of raffle tickets, they could be for nothing. It could be a lie. I would say, yes, sure, I will take all of them. Thank you. I cannot help it.
It's the bargain value of them that fools you.
That's it. See, I knew you'd get it. 50-50 draws, raffle tickets. I am a whore for these things. And so I had avoided it for a long time because I don't go to the mall very often. It's typically where people are selling them. I just hadn't run into it. But then today, when I went to the gym, usually I just, buzz my card and they kind of wave me through. But someone said, hey, we're doing a raffle. Would you like to? Yes. Yes, please. Well, here's what's on. I don't care. I had to you have to be careful, right? Because people look at you like you're crazy. When you're like, I don't care what I could win. It's a raffle. I'll take it. Yeah. Oh, but you have great prizes. Yeah, they look, to this day, I don't know what they are. I don't know. Something about Landmark Cinemas. Who gives a shit? Raffle tickets. Take my money. And so anyways, I bought $30 worth of raffle tickets and who knows what I'll win. In past, as I've told you, I've won a horse blanket. I do not and have never owned a horse. I won a fishing pole, a very expensive fishing pole. I do not, nor have I ever gone fishing. I will you say raffle tickets, I will hand you the money. We will, like someone buying drugs on a street corner in Baltimore. I will take the package you give me and I will simply walk away. And whatever fate deems to be in there is what fate deems to be in there. I am totally powerless against this.
Yeah, I'm the same. I accidentally bought some trainers last week.
Isn't it crazy? They just fall right into your lap.
I couldn't believe it because Julie was saying to me the other day that she was quite proud that I got rid of 3 pairs, so I was down to 14 pairs. And then I saw these beautiful limited edition ones, so I had to buy them.
Naturally, they're limited edition for a reason.
Exactly. Look, they're beautiful.
They are indeed quite beautiful. Listeners, you cannot see this, but they are gray, black, and with a yellow stripe. They are nifty. It's great to have normal-sized footwear, or normal-sized feet, rather, because you can get cool-colored footwear. I have clodhopper feet, so all I can get are shoes that are colored. I have the kids this weekend. Thankfully, there are no raffle tickets on this episode of the Ghost Story Guys. Instead, we just have another batch of listener stories. This will, in fact, be our final batch of listener stories for a little while, because lined up after that, we're going to be doing Cincinnati. So, folks, if you have any stories from the great Ohioan, is that a word? Ohioan city of Cincinnati. You can send them to ghoststoryguys@gmail.com. And then after that will be our South African episode. So again, if you have stories, send them to us at ghoststoryguys@gmail.com. But before we can get to this round of listener stories, we have to thank our patrons.
This one's for the patrons.
Patrons, we could not do what we do, namely buy sneakers and 4K copies of the director's cut of Spawn without you.
That album's probably never had as much streaming as it has in the last 2 weeks. I suspect.
Anyways,
What about these patrons?
how about those patrons?
Stop mucking about.
Most of that's not going to survive the edit, but believe me, we're grateful for you. And we'd like to thank every single one of you. Right now, we'd like to thank our latest patrons and Apple Podcast subscribers. And they are
Diane Wilson,
Andy Simpson,
Shauna Radetsky,
Ryan Hoskin,
September Ward,
Mindy Froelich,
and Dan Epstein, not related to anybody else.
Yes, Dan has specified that in his email. He says not related to you-know-who.
And he doesn't live on an island either. Dan would like to know.
That's
please.
it.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you to every single one of you guys. We cannot tell you how much we appreciate it. Every single person who downloads the Ghost Story Guys help makes us who we are, but folks who can support us financially, you are the real MVPs. And again, this would not happen without you. Like the way the advertising world is right now, that section of our business has all but died, which has been catastrophic. But having you folks support us is a lifeline. And so we are deeply, deeply grateful to every single one of you. And if you'd like to get access to bonus conversations between myself and Paul, early ad-free release for all episodes, our monthly live stream, Ghost Force shoutouts, and so much more, click the link in the show notes, head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys, or sign up to become a Cabinista on Apple Podcasts. And if you do sign up on Apple Podcasts, make sure to forward us your confirmation so we can thank you in this section. Apple doesn't give us a list, so we won't know you signed up until you send us your receipt. And then we'd love to thank you here because we deeply appreciate you. All right. Well, we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with listener stories. All right, so this is also a collection of stories which have been sitting in the archive for some time. So some of the references may seem a little dated, and it is all Paul's fault. I can say that because his microphone is muted right now because he's vaping. So he cannot stop me, but it is 100% Paul Bestel's fault. He's unmuting his... Damn it. He's back.
Yes. You might see some listeners refer to a channel called MTV.
Yeah, and their employment in the burgeoning buggy whip industry. All right, so this story is from Ariel. So on a Saturday night last August, my girlfriend's mom wanted to have a family barbecue. Little did I know that my girlfriend's cousin's best friend was coming over, and he's a police officer for the NYPD. Sometimes he works in different boroughs because he's high rank and knows a lot of different people. So after putting in a few years, he was finally able to work on Staten Island because he lives there and obviously knows the area. We'll call him Bob. We were having fun in the pool, hammering some brewskis and downing some burgers and dogs. Bob is being, well, your typical cop who's not on the job, so he's busting out some badass stories. And I do have to say, I have an old friend who's a detective in, I won't say where, but man, you want fucked up stories. That's a place to go.
Every time.
Oof, I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, but it's probably a good thing. I need some time to process all that shit.
Yes, need a break.
All right, so Bob is busting out some badass stories, and someone asked him, hey, you ever seen some creepy shit on the job? Everyone got all quiet, and he started by explaining that sometimes he and his partner would get a call to check out the warehouses out on the island, Staten Island, to clear them out. Well, to see if people who aren't supposed to be there are actually there. But Bob and his partner are very down-to-earth guys. Bob has seen some things and been around some things. So while he and his partner are checking out one of the warehouses on the island, he explained they do that just to make sure there's no dealers there or anyone shooting up. Bob and his partner don't call in petty stuff. Like if there's just homeless people staying there, especially during the cold weather, then it's okay. But on this night, they were going floor by floor, seeing if there was anything going on. And on the last floor, when they were about to leave, out of nowhere, a homeless man appeared, screaming and yelling out in agony. A few days later, a homeless man was indeed found there, whether it was due to cold at the time or maybe him having an illness that he couldn't get help for. But I think maybe he appeared like just screaming and yelling because he didn't realize that he was dead, and that when Bob and his partner went there, they were probably the only ones who made it to the top floor that day. Ariel, I assume you mean that this person disappeared afterwards, which would be terrifying. And pin in that because I have some thoughts on that. Ariel goes on to say, I have another story. I forgot which episode you mentioned, Brennan, but you recalled someone mentioning a story about a specific road that if you drove it long enough, a car would pop out of nowhere and follow you to a certain point. In New Jersey, we have a similar road like that. It's called Clinton Road. It's almost near Action Park, a little past it, and I've been on this road before. About 12 years ago, I had a soccer game up in West Milford. I was around 12 or 13 at the time, so my mom had to take me, sometime in late October. I had a hell of a game. When the last whistle blew, it got dark outside really quickly. I don't know why the season went on that long, but the field had no lights on, and the way we got there, there was no highway for about 30 minutes. Clinton Road, the road we took to and from there, is a very long road, maybe 10 to 15 miles at least. I've been on that road now as an adult, and I have yet to see what I saw that night with my mom. Anyways, after the game, we packed up my shit and went straight home. I love the fall, so I wanted to go home and just crash into my bed and put on something spooky and festive for October. Cartoon Network had all the best Halloween specials. We were on the road for 10 or 15 minutes before my mom noticed an old-school pickup truck that just appeared out of nowhere. I saw it too, but we didn't see this car just come up behind us in the distance. It was just there. There's no lights on this road, and even the tree branches kind of cradle inward when the branches go above the road. Even without knowing about Clinton Road prior to that experience, it just looks like a creepy road. That night the moon was just bright enough for me to see enough of the vehicle. I was able to make out an old school truck, maybe from the 60s or 70s, but the headlights were round, and the color looked like a very dark, rusted brown. Now, on this road, it's just straight for miles, but after my mom got off the road and turned, we didn't see it anymore. My mom was driving and had to pay attention to the road, and I was sitting in the front with her, but was also checking the side mirror on my door, and didn't see the truck pass. So a few days later, when my mom told her coworkers we had a game in West Milford, she had no idea the place was haunted until one of her coworkers brought it up. When she told me this is when she also realized the truck came out of nowhere too. The last I heard, they were making a movie on that road about the phenomenon that's there. To me, it feels like there's been so much hype and so many people who go on that road itching to see something but don't anymore, or maybe it's the expectation that kills it now. All I know is I've been on that road plenty since that time, and I haven't seen anything since. Peace and cowabunga, Ari. So, Ari, thanks for sending that in whenever that was. It was some time ago. On the road thing, I do think I know for a fact, actually, after listening to or narrating Ruth's America volume, that there is, God, you could write an entire book of just allegedly haunted roads in America. You know, places where a truck randomly appears, or, you know, the old urban legend about flashing your lights at oncoming cars and then they run you off the road.
Yes, that's how you should do it.
Exactly. That'll show them.
Yeah, not do that again.
But I actually saw a movie a long time ago called Buckout Road, which is named after, I think, a place in Pennsylvania, I want to say, Pennsylvania or Ohio, which is the same idea. Every place has like a haunted road. And I always wonder where that starts. Because like you said, Ariel, it's possible that, you know, this was a ghost truck, but I think it's also possible that it's someone who lives out there and just maybe knows the dirt roads better than anyone else. You know, I mean, I long time ago, I went out to this place, I think it's called Turtle Valley in sort of rural BC. And tell you what, they know when you're there. There are signs basically saying, we know you're here. Mm-hmm. And we invite you to leave as soon as possible. And the whole time you are very aware. I think someone actually contacted me once a long time ago when I brought up Turtle Valley on the show and said, yeah, it's weird back there. And weird is a good way to put it. And again, to me, and because I've only ever been there once, it looks like a single road. But from what I understand, the whole region is threaded with dirt forest roads. So it's very possible, Ari, that what you saw there was just someone who is just rolling ghost, right? They got their lights off. Who knows what the fuck they're doing out there in rural New Jersey.
There's tons, though, isn't there? Haunted roads, ghost cars.
Oh, yeah.
Is it a black Camaro that's seen in North Carolina that refers to a crash in the 70s, and people will see it appear in their rearview mirror and then it just disappears? That's quite a famous one. There was a very interesting case here in the UK that happened about 25 years ago in Surrey, which nobody's ever explained properly. So one night, the police got about 5 calls saying people had been driving on this particular stretch of road and they'd seen a car go off the side and crash into a wood. And the police were like, oh, right, okay. So they got there and they could find no evidence of the crash just happening. However, whilst they were searching, they found a crashed car with a dead body inside that had occurred 5 months earlier.
Oh, yes, of course.
And so...
God damn.
Nobody knows what those people saw, but the location was exactly where the police found this car with somebody who'd been reported missing for 5 months.
Wasn't there a case like that in the US that turned up on one of these, like either Unsolved Mysteries or something like that, where there was actually a baby in the car?
Yes. Yeah.
And they had seen someone drawing their attention to the wrecked vehicle down the hill, but the person who they claim had drawn their attention had been dead for quite some time, but the baby had survived.
Yeah. Yep.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Those ones are always quite strange, I think. But that Surrey one's always stuck with me because it doesn't make sense at all, because there was nobody else crashed.
Yeah.
You had, like I say, 4 or 5 people called the police and said that we think we've seen an accident. And when they got there, they found one, but it wasn't the accident people reported because there hadn't been one.
This goes back to the whole, like, time I think works very differently for some of us. We have a very different experience of the way time unfolds. Yeah.
It's a strange one because it's like, why 5 months? What was the trigger? What caused it? Was it an environmental attitude aspect even? Well, it might have an attitude, who knows? Was it weather played a part in it? Was it the anniversary of that particular person's birth? Who knows? What was that case a few years ago? There was somebody, I think, was it somebody who was on Google Maps in America somewhere, and they were just looking about where they lived. And as they went past this golf course, they realised there was a car submerged in one of the lakes there. And they called the police, and they turned up, and it was a husband and wife who disappeared 30 years ago. They'd driven off the road and drowned.
And this was in a water hazard on a golf course?
Yeah.
Was it Mar-a-Lago?
I've seen some pretty big bodies of water on golf courses over the years.
That's wild. Okay, I've never seen one. Mind you, I've only been to like 3 golf courses.
You've got sharks in lakes on golf courses in Australia, mate.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. Got swept in there.
There's a lack of knowledge on my part about golf courses.
There's a very famous clip of some guys going, "Yeah, we all thought it was nonsense, mate," and then look, and it just goes, it just goes past. Bull shark on golf course.
That's pushing it, Australia. That's Jesus.
Showing off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm stuck at home playing Lee Carvalho's putting challenge.
The other aspect of all this is it's one of those aspects of the paranormal that people don't really want to talk about, because obviously some people will always tell you that ghosts are the disembodied spirits, souls, or whatever of people.
Of course, yep.
So why do we see ghost cars, planes, hearses, coach and horses, buses? There's numerous stories about most modes of transport. Ships. I've yet to hear one about a hovercraft. But that doesn't mean, or a submarine. But everything else.
Florida, we're looking at you.
Yeah, Florida.
Come in clutch, my guy.
If you've stopped collecting ghosts in Tupperware bowls.
Yeah, I saw that the guy was trying to trade a ghost to GameStop.
Yeah, do you see the guy the other week that got arrested walking down the road because he was off to meet the dolphins and help them rebuild Atlantis?
Nope, I missed that one.
He was arrested in Florida, surprisingly enough.
Jesus Christ. Well, I mean, the guy who tried to trade a ghost for a game, I get it. With those prices nowadays, Christ on a bike. I wanted to buy Nick Breath of the Wild on Switch. It's like $100.
That's a bit cheap for a ghost, though, isn't it?
Maybe it was a shitty ghost. Maybe that ghost came from Mar-a-Lago. And just before we move on, I wanted to go back briefly to the police story from the warehouse. It reminded me of something that happened here, and it's not spooky. It's just sad. But when I first moved to London, there were 4 people who were poisoned with tainted drugs in East London, which is a very, very heavily disadvantaged part of the city. But what makes it worse than just, plain old overdose, which obviously is a dangerous thing. We hadn't talked about it, but we lost one of Nick's nieces to tainted drugs in England several years ago. But to make this worse, someone was giving these out free to people. These were clearly intentionally poisoned. And now, again, that's bad enough. That person was not found. But what it appears is that was a test run, because about just under a month ago, 40 calls came into London PD about tainted drugs. A huge number of people were poisoned. Again, intentionally, by someone who had clearly adulterated these drugs with the intention of killing people. This is not just someone decided to step on their shit to and use the wrong batch of chemicals. This was someone who had the intention of hurting people.
It's not the best business plan, is it?
Well, I think it's some vigilante. I think it's someone who's. That's what I think it is. I don't, because again, he gave it away free. So this is someone who's trying to do harm. So if, folks, I know a lot of us, people have different opinions on addiction and how that works. But I tell you, there's no version of the world where that is an okay thing to do.
Yeah, addiction's a medical issue. It's not a criminal issue and needs to be dealt with as such.
100%. Yeah, no, you cannot beat addiction out of someone.
No, you cannot. Next up is a message for our anonymous officer. I can never recall a moment when I've never considered the presence of ghosts or hauntings a probability. However, the experiences I had as a child, I tend not to remember. I'm sure it's a protective element of my psyche. Maybe one day, if I regress, I'll be able to tell those stories. But the ones I'm writing to you about are the ones I've experienced over the last 8 years since I became a police officer in England. You would be surprised, considering we're all such a negative, practical and overworked bunch, how many ghost stories float around various shifts. Ambulance police, fire and prison workers. Many of us tend to find ourselves very close to death and led to places maybe humans shouldn't find themselves. Finding ourselves in the front of the queue to disturb an energy no one has raised in a long time. Growing up, I never wanted to be a police officer. I actually wanted to be Lara Croft, until it was pointed out that she was actually sort of a criminal who lived off large amounts of inherited fortune. The police came to my secondary school for a careers day. They first made us do the fitness test, which is the UK bleep test. Oh, God. Which I failed dramatically. And then they made us stand in a row and showed us what happens when you join the academy. They then proceeded to pepper spray us all. Good old British policing. It turned out to be water, but if you want to see a bunch of 13-year-olds shit themselves and scream simultaneously, it's always a good idea.
Oh, man, when Nick joined the actual police, they pepper sprayed her for real.
That's Avon and Somerset, that.
I think she get tased as well. She definitely got CS sprayed. They definitely were like, you have to know what you're doing to people. So they all got juiced with it.
I'm not having that. That's like saying you're an armed officer, so we're going to shoot you.
We're going to shoot you. I know it did seem weird, but they all got CS sprayed.
Which
so
leg don't you like? Left. Always the left, please. What is going on in Avon and Somerset Police? Anyway, however, I went to university and I became a special constable in the Derbyshire Police. A special is a person who is sworn in as a volunteer police constable. You have the powers and the training as an officer, so you just don't get paid. So I'm sure you have to be relatively special to do the job. But it was a good way to see how the justice system worked, should I ever need to. But this was when I had my first paranormal experience. I'd been called to a job with my colleague to a disturbance in a house in the middle of Derby city centre. The house was a large end-terraced home in the middle of a council housing estate. When we got there, the house was in complete darkness and no one was in sight. We looked through the windows and knocked on the door and called control asking what the initial details were. The call had come from a passing driver, stating that he'd heard a lot of noise coming from inside the house and they were worried about the people inside. "Hang on," the controller said. "We're actually getting a call now from the landline of that address. All the controller can hear is screaming." It was dead silent outside, quiet and silent. And then all of a sudden, I felt that prickle you get at the back of your neck when you know you're being watched. I swear even the leaves on the trees stopped moving, and the whole street seemed to just stand still, not even seeing a fucking cat. Right, fuck this. My colleague had enough. And assuming the controllers had given the wrong address, he clicked the unlock button on the police vehicle and put the headlights on. And then the house began to scream. From every window, every door, every wall, the screams pierced their way out of the address, and it went through me. I began shouting down the radio asking for more officers as soon as possible in order to assist forced entry into the house. It was less than 5 minutes and 5 to 10 officers were surrounding the address. I think they were already on their way when they got the second call from control and just thought me and my colleague were just being thick. We used our method on entry and the second we crashed through the door, the house was entirely silent. It didn't look like a homeless person had been squatting in the building, let alone anybody living there. Most of the floors had been knocked through, leaving the bare foundations of the house. Literally just the outer walls and a patchwork of roofing. In some places you could stand on the ground floor and look straight through to the darkness of the sky above. You could see where the renovation had begun after what appeared to be a fire. Some rooms had been renovated, whereas in the other walls were still blackened and emitted the smell of stale smoke. None of us ever spoke about this job again. The sergeant who had attended spoke to the inspector and the way the officers had entered the property, with no clear signs of distress from within, and that was just brushed under the carpet. We really should have been answering for the damage we caused to the address, but I don't know what happened after this. When I joined West Midlands Police as a full-time police constable, I faced my second encounter while I was still a student. I was based on the western side, which covers Walsall, Wolverhampton, Dudley and West Bromwich. It was like 7 a.m, early, and I was called to a noise complaint in an old converted manor house. Calls had been coming since 4 a.m. stating that music was being played so loud there, it was shaking the ceilings of the neighbouring houses and the adjoining walls of other neighbours. There were no officers available to attend until I came on in the morning. When I arrived, I knew exactly what they meant. Kate Bush's Wuthering Heights was being played at top volume from the attic apartment. When I climbed the stairs, this smell hit me. It's a smell you don't quite recognise the first time you smell it, but you also never forget. I was banging on the door to the flat, but there would be no way for anyone within to have heard me over the noise. I called my team out to help me smash the door in, and no less than 10 minutes later, we were forcing entry. And there she was. The tenant had hung herself from one of the beams of the attic. I could barely see over the roar of the music, so I turned that shit off, as my sergeant directed me, and after cutting her down and knowing she was beyond any help we could give her, my eyes fell on the note. Do not turn off the music. Well, fuck. It was definitely a suicide. All the markers were there, and the poor girl had injuries that could only have been self-inflicted. However, the strangest thing that still haunts me about this job was the fact that all the residents said the music had started at 4 a.m. that morning, whereas her post-mortem showed she'd been clearly dead for several days. She'd definitely not died that morning, and I will spare you the gruesome details on that conclusion. There was certainly no third-party assistance in this, and the music was playing on repeat from a vinyl record. I couldn't listen to that song for a year, and it still gives me the chills now. But I also think humans are perfectly capable of being haunted by memories as well as residual energy. So after a few nights of heavy drinking and sleeping with the light on, I've managed to move on somewhat. I have a few more stories for you, but that last one has stayed with me, and typing it out again is a hard one, but it is a fascinating tale. I've got your email now, and I'll be in touch soon with some more stories. There's plenty more, as I'm 8 years into the job now. Wow.
Yeah. God damn. The suicide, there's so much there. I mean, if she's been gone for that long, who the fuck put the music on?
And why did it start at 4 a.m.?
Yeah. Also this. It reminds me, not that I think this is connected, it's just what it reminds me of. But do you remember the film Lost Souls?
Yes.
With Ben, I can't remember the guy's fucking name, but Winona Ryder's one of the stars. Anyways, it pretty mid movie. There's not really much to remember it by, but there's a scene where he's trying to listen to a recording, but as far as he can see, it's not actually, he can't hear anything. But the woman who lives next door, she hears this god awful chanting, as I recall, this sort of very demonic, upsetting chanting. And basically what happens is he keeps turning it up and up and up. He can't hear anything. And this poor old woman is being terrorized by this thing that he can't hear. And until she finally ends up doing the same thing. And it was just a horrible image. And again, in an otherwise unremarkable film, I cannot imagine actually coming onto that in real life. That is no wonder, Anonymous, you had to spend a few nights getting drunk and not sleeping. That is, again, I have a huge amount of respect for you're being able to see things like this. Again, some of the things my friend has told me, I'm like, I don't know how you do it, but I'm glad it's you and not me. Yeah.
Very much so. It is powerful. I mean, I love stories from the emergency services. I did a couple of shows in the first year about them with Andy Gilbert, who's a former police officer, now is a punk poet, and going a storm, as you talk about midlife career changes. But he worked.
That's quite a change.
Yeah, he worked in West Midlands Police Force. So maybe our anonymous officer is aware of who Andy Gilbert is, because he collected 2 books. They're called Credible Witness, Volumes 1 and 2. Quite slim paperbacks, but they're both for charity. And they are full with first-hand real encounters of the paranormal from British police officers.
I remember that. I actually think I might have sourced something from one of those books for a show in the first couple of years of Ghost Story Guys.
Yeah. And he's got there's some absolute stories in there. Some that are just silly, but there's a lot of weird ones. And but I don't think there's anything as weird as Kate Bush. Blimey.
Anonymous, before we move on, I want to say a couple things. The screaming thing with the first story, that really caught my eye, because one of the stories we were told, again, this is, I think, version 1.0 of the show. One of the stories we were told by someone, I think it was actually the spouse of a listener, we were not able to really tell it on the show. She asked us to not share it. She told us, but it wasn't something we could turn around and tell. But basically, one of the things it involved was screaming on a radio, much like is described there. Like it would increase in volume, and it did not matter which station or which frequency you set the radio to. This screaming in this area would be heard at just certain times of day across all bands. And it was a very, again, I wish I could share more about it, but it was a very active area. And so there is even the fact that this is the second story we've had about, a police officer seeing a screaming ghost. You're dealing with people in turmoil, and I guess if they die in turmoil too.
Yeah, I suppose it's difficult as well, because I can think of a couple of cases from Derby that are very notorious that wouldn't surprise me if they were the location, but I don't wish to cast assumptions based on that.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I thought to bring up the mood a bit before we move on, I found a thread of just weird, strange and upsetting things people have seen in Derbyshire. So I thought...
I wasn't far from there the other day.
There we go. So this is what you missed. So Just Edward R. says, sat having a pint in the Royal Telegraph pub when a bloke pulled out a hammer from his jacket and attacked a fellow drinker with it. So don't drink there. Obvious Water 569 says, saw a woman throw away a box of dildos in the McDonald's bin on Boxing Day.
Clearly she got some new ones.
Good for her.
She's loving it.
Oh, we're going to stop there. We cannot possibly top that. But Anonymous, thank you so much. I believe this is the full run of stories you sent us. It was this anonymous officer who encouraged me to go back and dig out all these stories in these last couple episodes to make sure everyone got their due. And I'm happy that we got to yours now as well. If you do have more, please send them. We would love to read them, and I promise it won't take 3 years this time to get it on the show.
No.
2 at best. At worst. Anyways, okay. Thank you very, very much. And while I read more things to Paul from this thread about terrible things in Derbyshire, we're going to take a quick break for some ads. There's actually a giant cat story here in Belper.
Yeah, oh, it's not far.
Yeah, in Highwoods in Belper, I saw a massive cat. Looked the size of a Labrador dog. It was pretty far away, perched on a rock, looking down at us. I pointed it out to some other people who acknowledged it was unbelievably large. Unbelievably large.
Can believe that.
In 1993, I saw a UFO hovering over Willington Power Station. I was learning to drive at the time and was out with my mom. We both saw it and parked up. It was a classic UFO shape, bright white disc, and I estimated it was around 200 feet in diameter. Some years ago, around 2010, I had a strange encounter of a possible World War II ghost airplane flying very low over the Kettleston estate.
Yes. Derbyshire's legendary for ghost planes.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, they fly all the way up to here.
Oh, okay.
Derbyshire's 5 miles from here.
Oh, there you go. So, yeah, this person said there was no sound from the plane. It was like some sort of bomber.
Yeah, that's what people see. It's completely silent. World War II bomber.
And we're back, and Paul and I are still reading the list of weird shit from Derbyshire. Turned out there's actually some creepy stuff there.
Yes.
All right, so from Derbyshire, we move to wherever this next story is set. It is from Fran. Fran says, "From a young age, I've been tuned into whatever is going on outside of our everyday human experience, but avoided leaning too far into it because there's too much New Age bullshit intertwined with that world." Fran, you are not kidding. Only now in my late 30s am I actually trying to lean into my experiences and cultivate a connection with the world of what we can see and what we can't. I'm doing that with simple meditation and writing down everyday experiences so I can identify when coincidences and odd happenings occur. You guys have talked about this before, but I think odd things happen more frequently than most of us realize. So writing things down makes identifying those instances more likely. In the last few years, I've found enough resources and communities, like the Ghost Story Guys, created by like-minded people who accept that the world isn't just what we see, while maintaining a strong sense of curious skepticism, and who don't use their experiences to try and elevate themselves as higher beings or to try to sell me something. That being said, I am a patron of the podcast. Thank you, Fran. We try not to sell you too much shit. I don't like people who push a lot of crap. We had someone, I think they wanted us to do like a perfume or a cologne. I'm like, look, hey, I appreciate the offer, man, but no one wants to smell like the Ghost Story Guys.
I smell quite nice.
I do too, but I just think the concept of Ghost Story Guys, you know, like, to me, that smells like the pub. And maybe a kebab, you know, grace notes of tequila.
Real ale and fish and chips.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, no one needs to. I want to smell like a Ghost Story. No, you do, because again, both of us smell fabulous. But conceptually, I just don't think so.
Yes, I recommend, as we move from spring into summer, Boss Citrus. It's a great range of fragrance.
See, I'm still on the Tom Ford Noir Extreme. It just changes so much over the course of a day.
If it works for you, it works for you.
It works for me. All right. Anyways, back to Fran's story. In my early 20s, circa 2015/2016, I was on a family vacation traveling around southern Germany. We stopped in a few cities and enjoyed the beautiful German culture. Nothing out of the ordinary occurred until we took a day trip to Triberg. Triberg? Triberg or Triberg? We'll say Triberg. As soon as we got out of the... It is Triberg? Okay. As soon as we got out of the car, I wanted to leave. It is a magnificent town situated in a breathtaking landscape, and all I felt was an overwhelming sense of not being wanted. Don't get me wrong, the people were kind, the day was bright, the streets were filled with happy people. It was more like the trees and the land didn't want us there. I could feel something from the woods and from under the earth. Now, I have anxiety, and I'm very familiar with panic attacks and anxiety attacks. That's not what this was. It was like the past and the present all existed at one time in that place. It felt like if I had walked into the woods, I would have found the German equivalent of druids communing with spirits of the land and navigating through caves. It was such an interesting feeling. It didn't feel scary. It was something closer to being ominous. I couldn't get out of that town fast enough. Luckily, we had only planned to spend the afternoon there, so we walked around, ate lunch, and then drove on to the next location. I was traveling with my boyfriend, now husband, and his family, and I told him what I felt and how uncomfortable it was. He didn't have any of the same impressions and had enjoyed a lovely sunny day in a beautiful town. That place and that feeling has never left me. It felt as though there were so many secrets, like they were members of that town that were part of something ancient. At least once a year since that trip, I've tried to research Triberg's history, but I haven't been able to find anything. I always felt there was something magic there, and maybe something awful happened that spoiled the place. Maybe this is one of those towns where a number of women were murdered after being accused of being witches during the 1500s and 1700s. I've never found anything. Granted, I don't speak German, so I'm at a disadvantage when it comes to research. Fast forward to January 2025. I'd been listening to Ghost Story Guys for a few years, and it occurred to me I could write in and ask if either of you had come across any stories from the Triberg area. After resolving to write in, I promptly forgot and continued with my life, hooray for ADHD. That is, until the Hidden Haunting of Germany episode was released a few weeks later in February, and I got to enjoy the shock of the coincidence. And just this morning, I opened up the most recent release which was For Those With Eyes to See, and you're telling a story about Triberg. I'm only halfway through the story from Triberg, so I stopped it so I could write this letter. This was such a magnificent coincidence, I had to finally write in. So if either of you have any resources on Triberg, or if your listener, Thor, I'm guessing about the spelling, who sent in all the stories about Germany, has any resources about Triberg he could point to, I'd be very appreciative. Guys, I love the show. I've listened through the back catalog at least 3 times at this point. I have it on when I'm working, and Brennan, Fear Daily is a fantastic project. Cutter fucked me up, and I had to take a break from listening for a little while. But I say that with love and appreciation. It was a great story. Paul, Mysteries and Monsters is my go-to when I'm not listening to Ghost Story Guys. I love the long-form conversational style with your guests. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the time and care that both of you put into all your endeavors. I recommend your work whenever I have the opportunity. Also, I really appreciate you supporting other creators in this decentralized Fortean community. I checked out Brett Manning's work after you spoke so highly of her on your show, and I ended up buying a few of her creations that I absolutely love. And you introduced me to another of my favorite podcasts, Southern Gothic, after having Brandon on. Thanks again for all you do. At some point, when my ADHD meds have kicked in again, I'll write another letter with some of my paranormal experiences. Sending you both all the best. Fran. P.S. I'm a Pennsylvania native, and I'm not too far from Chad's Ford. Brennan, I loved hearing your stories about your experience in this area and your affinity with the state. There is something about the woods and the land here that makes it unique. And Fran, that is a crazy amount of coincidence. Damn. I'm just going to look up that script from that past episode, because I thought Triberg sounded familiar. Yeah, so this was one of the historic stories. I won't read it again, it's quite lengthy, but it's from Tord Henrik. Tord, if you're out there, if you know any more about Triberg, let us know. We'll pass it along to Fran here, because that's one hell of a coincidence.
Well, as they say in the area, im Schwarzwald die Toten gehen nicht allein. In the Black Forest, the dead do not walk alone. And Triberg is in the Black Forest.
Allein. Alone is allein.
Allein. So,
interesting. Yeah. Okay. That explains a lot.
Yeah. There's tons of stories there. Weird shit and all sorts. Ghosts and 30 years war of cannibalism in there by
Jesus Christ.
Fallen soldiers and the locals and stuff, because it was scorched earth policy, so they were just eating each other because there was nothing else left to eat.
Good God.
So the Black Forest is a renowned location for high strangeness and ghostly sightings of a variety. Wild Hunt supposed to be there as well. That's where the Wild Hunt story originates from.
Oh, interesting.
Got all kinds of bits, shadow people and ghosts and white ladies and haunted castles and all sorts happening out there.
Huh. Okay, well, there you go. Yeah, Tord, if you have any more information about that as well, let us know. But it sounds like, just from what Paul is saying, there's fertile enough ground to explain why the land would not want anyone there anymore.
It's always had that reputation. When the Romans invaded there, they gave it a specific name. I can't remember the Roman or Latin for tree now. It was something like, It basically was like Selca Nigra, the black sky or something, because the trees were so over them that they couldn't see anything. And so the Romans avoided it. They didn't like going through there.
Interesting.
So that's 2,000 years ago.
There you go. So yeah, it's clearly something. And I do think that there are a lot of places like that. I think we have become so disconnected from the natural world that we've built on a lot of places that did not ever want to have company. You know, I was Saturday, actually, I went down, as I usually do, down to Reed's Records for coffee down at St. Thomas. John from Union General Coffee is usually set up down there. So we got talking about ghost towns. And there I was telling him the story of Tranquille outside Kamloops, which we did way back on episode 18, the city by the lake. And it's one of those places, it's the same way. It just feels like the land does not want you there. And honestly, everything north of Vancouver, so like Squamish and back behind there at Whistler, I don't like being back there. It feels like you're trespassing somewhere you're not meant to be.
I can imagine that. There are places that just give off that kind of go away vibe.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that you picked it up, Fran, and not your partner, because I think we all have different sensitivities to this stuff. And I would be curious to know if your husband, does he generally pick up the paranormal, or is it something that, again, like, it's mostly you grabbing those vibes? Thank you for writing in. Again, I'm just staggered by the coincidence there. It's incredible. And thank you for the kind words about Fear Daily. Cutter is a fucked up story. Yeah, Cutter is actually, to be writer guy for a sec, there's two stories I wrote in the early days of writing that show. Cutter and Penny for Your Thoughts. And they are the two halves of my experience in my 20s. So Cutter is very ugly. It's about two young men who still stayed in their small town, kind of talk shit about people in the bar, and kind of put themselves above everyone, even though they haven't actually done anything to earn that. And it all ends very, very badly for them, for one of them. For both of them, really, but especially for one of them. And then Penny for Your Thoughts is about a young woman who has a crush on the young lady who works at a 7-Eleven in this new little town that she's had to move to. And it sort of goes from there. But it's Cutter is kind of about my concern in my 20s that I was never going to do anything with my life, that I was just going to stay in Revelstoke getting hammered and either work in a Radio Shack or my family's store and just never doing anything. And then Penny for Your Thoughts is sort of the happy side of my 20s, where I would go to the 7-Eleven at midnight, shoot the shit with my buddies who worked there, and then we'd rob the place blind with free sandwiches and Slurpees, you know. So
that's how it should be.
They were good times. I won't say where, I probably shouldn't say where, but there was one particular 7-Eleven, not in Revelstoke, where my friend worked on the night shift. And it was the worst 7-Eleven in all of at least Western Canada, I think, for theft. And it was because the employees themselves were just robbing the place. Just like stagecoach bandits with no deodorant. They were just, oh man. Like I remember my friend would go, he said, I got to go do some shopping. He would just walk in a 7-Eleven with his backpack and start putting things in it. And that was it. That was his shopping. The only thing you weren't allowed to steal was the lottery tickets, because they really kind of monitored those closely. Got to go get some groceries, just put a bunch of shit in a backpack and go.
That's why I always arrange line cleaning on Sunday evening, so everybody could come and get hammered for free, and then we'd go home.
I love it. I will say thank you very much, Fran. And
Thank you,
sadly, I think Fear Daily is winding up, so it'll just be repeats at this point. I don't know that there's going to be any new stories, but hopefully at some point we'll be able to go back to it. But for now, I think that's been capped off. I'm so happy you enjoyed it. It was very, very close to my heart, and I'm hoping I can get some of those stories published. But that's another conversation. So, anyways, very quickly, before we go to some ads. Last night I was very restless. I just I didn't want to be at home. I didn't know where to go. I'd already been to the gym. So I just went for a walk. Finally, about 9:00, I thought, I'm hungry. I haven't had dinner. I'm going to go. I want a novel experience. So I went to a bar in my neighborhood, or sort of an Italian restaurant / bar that I had never been to before. And I had heard that it's fairly mid as far as the quality of food, and that's kind of expensive, but it's fine. And that's true. It was basically that. I had an okay time. The food was okay. But I was sat at my table, and I had two appies and this sort of like bread side. That was my meal. And a Negroni, which I love. So sipping on my Negroni, and this group of folks, probably in their 60s and 70s, very well dressed, wander past my table on their way out after they've paid their checks. And I don't think one of them missed the opportunity to comment on the amount of food I had on my table. Not one of the first one's like, oh, that looks pretty good. The second one, oh, is that all for you? It was mushroom. It was meatballs and mac and cheese. Who the fuck are you? And then, oh, okay, can I join you? And I tell you, man, I'm good at play chuckles. I'm good at, that's great. I ran perilously close to completely out of plate fucking chuckles. It was like a receiving line. Everyone had like a zinger, except they hadn't actually learned what a punchline is. So it was just some random non sequitur. There were like a bunch of silver-haired gargoyles hanging over my table, like the fucking Court of Owls in Batman.
I'd have just said, fuck off. How's that? Fuck off.
Yeah, it was getting there. Again, I don't think there was any malice behind it, but it was just completely inappropriate. There is something, I think, when you get to be a certain age, you think you are entitled to comment on just about anything. Like, I remember sitting outside a coffee shop once in Victoria, and I was wearing one of my Ghost Story Guy shirts, and this old guy, probably again in his 70s, walks past me and says, well, I thought Halloween was over. I'm like, what? And what I wanted to tell him, well, that's what I wanted to tell him is, man, I got to be honest with you. When you die, your family's going to breathe a sigh of relief.
What you should always say in those moments is, do you know how painful it is to get punched in the throat? And when they go, no, you just go, told you. They tend not to talk again after that, because their voice box has been crushed.
Oh God! So yeah. Anyways, that was my. I got to have my
drive-by pensioner abuse train.
Yeah.
Our next story is from Ashley. So a little backstory. My grandfather on my dad's side had passed away when I was either a baby or just before I was born. But when I was a little girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old, me and my parents had moved to a newish house, meaning nothing scary had happened according to our knowledge. But my dad had owned a bar and would work until around 4 to 6 in the morning, and so often I would sleep with my mum in their bed. It was maybe about 10 o'clock at night, and my mum was in the kitchen finishing something, and I was in their bed sitting in the middle waiting for her to come back. Now, to give you a little layout of this bedroom, right when you come into it from the hall you see the bedroom, and off to your right hand side was a connecting door to the master bathroom. I was waiting for her to come, and then it happened. A man who was wearing a black and red flannel shirt and an old school winter type hunting hat and sunglasses formed in the hall and stared at me. I didn't feel like he was a bad person or would cause me any harm. And then he went from the hall to the bathroom. I waited a while, scared shitless, and then ran straight to my mum, scared as fuck. I was later telling my grandmother. She acted shocked and pulled out a picture of my grandfather. And sure enough, it was him. Nothing like that has ever happened again, and I kind of feel he was just checking in, because he never met me. Another short story is of the only time I think what I've met was a shadow person. I was in bed with my boyfriend, don't think dirty, Brennan, but we were just laying in the dark talking, and it was around 3 or 4, I think, and I saw something about human height move from the window to behind the TV, and I dismissed it by just being tired. But then I asked my boyfriend if he'd seen it, and he instantly said yes, and before I even told him which way it went, he told me, and I've been scared to be alone in that room ever since. My last story is not mine, but my father's, and it's one of my favourites from living in Georgia. We live in a city about an hour south from Atlanta, and we've been here a very, very long time. No, it's been here a very long time. One of the oldest buildings we have is the Springer Opera House, which is literally the name. They do quite a few ghost walks, and I've taken some of them before. but the Springer is for sure one of the biggest haunted places, with almost all of the same bones of when it was built. When you walk in, you instantly can feel that something is there. The atmosphere feels cold and heavy. However, despite the creepy atmosphere, they do small plays and sometimes movie nights. My dad was working on the light board one night with two of his friends. I think they were on the catwalk and they all had their headphones connecting with wires so they could hear better. So in the way they were placed, his friend was all the way down with no one beside him on one side, whilst on the other side was my dad, who was in the middle, and both of his friends were on either side. His other friend Jeff was closest to the exit. During the play, someone kept pulling my dad's headphone wire, and he just kept telling his friends to stop doing it. About 3/4 through the play, Todd walked out and didn't return. After the play, my dad and Jeff went to see what happened, and Todd said someone had just kept pulling on his headphones, but he was on the side that no one was stood there. Theatre ghosts, buggers.
Like theater kids, you got to watch out.
Yep.
I can't remember if I told you this or not, but I went to go see The Bride when it came out a little while ago, and I really quite liked it. But what I remember saying to myself after about the first 10 minutes of the film is, this is the most theater kid-ass movie I've ever seen.
Let's do the show right here.
Pretty much. Yep, pretty much. So to finish the show off, we have a pair of dream stories. We do love a good dream story here on Ghost Story Guys. So the first is from Spud. Spud says, I found your podcast about a year ago while taking a break from a Case File podcast and have been listening since. I marathon through your stuff while working and have loved the show since. Really enjoying it. Keep it coming. I know the mythical dream episode was a little while ago, and I'm just now catching up for episode 79. Okay, this is an oldie. So I'm not sure if you're still looking for people's dreams, but if you are, then I've got one for you. Go for it, Spud. Now, for context, I'm not quite a skeptic, but not a believer either. I'm open to the possibility of the supernatural and paranormal existence, but in my experience, almost everything has a fairly logical and sensible explanation. I've never really had any experiences or encounters of my own, except every now and then I get a feeling that I call bad juju. Most notably, just before starting my second year of university, my housemates and I were viewing properties, as one of their parents was going to purchase a place for us to ease the whole rental thing. Anyways, we viewed a number of properties all over the city, and I had a habit of wandering off around the property looking for all the nooks and crannies. We got to this one property, though, and from the moment I walked in, the place had a bad vibe. I'm not sure if the place just felt off because it was poorly lit and the decor was aged. It was clear that the current owner was either elderly or had recently passed and was being sold afterwards. The house was being sold, to be clear, not the elderly corpse. Or I hope. We spent maybe 20 minutes there, and the stairs and living room felt completely off. Maybe we just felt weird invading someone's home like that, but it clearly felt like an invasion. And I couldn't help but think that maybe the reason we all felt so put off was because whoever it was wasn't quite ready to let the house go. My apologies. That's not the story I meant to tell, but I do have a dream that runs something as follows. It happened a good few months ago, and I woke up immediately and wrote down what I remembered, but just never got around to sending it. Here's the dream. I dreamed of a strange creature that looked like a cross between a Studio Ghibli creature and the Truth from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. You know, the weird fuzzy shadow being? Like that. It scampered up and down the stairs, and I could feel it behind me. The creature, or being, or whatever, had pale white skin and short black hair cut to frame its face, which had empty black and yellow features. Next, I remember my sister and I talking about it while we were sat down in a space I can't remember or recognize, but we were surrounded by lion cubs, or some kind of cat creatures, all flicking their tails in the air. What struck me and scared me was that my sister's face and features would change to be the same as the weird fuzzy being whenever she looked it in the eyes, but return to normal whenever I looked at it. For some reason, I seemed to think throwing a blanket over it, if you could catch it, would make it go away, like the boogeyman from Terry Pratchett books who have existential crises when covered in a blanket and disappear. My sister got up close to my face all of a sudden, and I woke up feeling an itch between my shoulder blades, like something was behind me. I sleep on my back more often than not, so I knew there was nothing there. I remember very clearly, however, declaring quietly so as not to wake anyone, but forcibly, I don't know who the fuck you are. I don't know what the fuck you are, but leave me the fuck alone. Go bother someone else. I'm going back to sleep. After that, I rolled onto my side and went back to sleep. I haven't had a dream like that since, and I certainly haven't seen that creature or anything similar either. Like I said, I'm not a believer as such, and that's the closest I've ever come to having anything close to an experience myself. having listened to a bunch of the show over the days, weeks before this, I remembered you saying that sometimes telling whatever it was to back off would work. So that's what I did. Apologies for the long and somewhat rambly email, but hopefully you guys enjoy it and maybe find a use for it. If you choose to feature my stories, then feel free to use my name. Been great to see how much the show has grown and developed over the years, and I'm keen to keep listening. Before I go, though, I've always wondered just how much of the stories you feature and discuss are based in true life events, and how much of it is really well-written fiction. So, Spud, first off, thank you for sharing. Again, this is another occasion, like we were talking about, places that don't want you there. And I think it is great that you had that vibe and you guys knew, let's not buy this place because this is not going to go well for us.
Yes, that's always helpful realtor advice there. I'm surprised somebody hasn't set that up somewhere. Do you hope or fear that your new home may be haunted? Call me now, and I will come in for £1,000 and check. I've done it a couple of times with friends.
Oh, no kidding. Have you picked up anything?
Well, it was all right. Apart from the possession, it was okay.
Okay.
Yeah, there was one where I just thought, ooh, I don't like this house. I really don't like this house. And they bought it. And I went, yeah, fine.
Oh, no. It's great. Did they have any issues?
Yeah, it was very noisy. A very noisy house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. They never used to say, whenever I used to go around, even in the day, I'd turn the lights on. It always felt like there was something lurking.
In the daytime. Oh, man.
Don't know. Maybe it just didn't like bald-headed men.
I saw an article on Instagram that someone linked and it said, The Lost Art of Going Bald. And I thought, no, it's not a lost fucking art. You're just looking at the wrong people. There's two very handsome podcasters who will show you that shit is alive and well.
I get infuriated sometimes when I see some men who are desperately hanging on to essentially a merkin on their head, right? And they've just
yeah, that weird hair horn.
Yeah, and it's all. I just want to cut the fucking head, cut their hair off, and just let go, mate. Let go. Why do you want to look like you've got handlebars on your head?
It is such a bad look. Honestly, even the ring, the bald ring, I think we have to let that go. The director Skinner look. No, just shave the whole head, guys. We have the technology.
Yeah. It is weird. I remember once getting told off 30 years ago, when my hair started to go, and I thought, right, that's it, I'm just going to get rid of it. And I got told off for having a skinhead because it gave the wrong impression.
Oh, I mean, I deal with that constantly. I very much understand that.
I'd rather look like a twat trying to cover up my baldness than feel comfortable in my own skin. Yeah, no problem, mate. Yeah. I'll look at twat for my job. Brilliant.
Speaking of the hair ring, before we move on, there is this, I think he's Persian, is a Persian comedian. His name's Sorab Firuzish. And he's been doing this series of TikToks and Reels where he's Dick Cheney in hell talking about the news. And he wears this, he's like a big all over Persian guy with a big black beard and bushy hair. But he wears this fake bald cap with a ring, a fringe on it. And he just talks about the news like he's Dick Cheney talking to Satan in hell. It is very funny stuff. Anyway, it's very funny guy. If I remember, I'll put a link in the show notes. The Dick Cheney thing just slays me every time. Oh, and Spud, if you're listening still, and for anyone else who might have this question, we never knowingly read fiction on the show. Everything we read is what we believe to be someone's true life experience. I will not, if we read something that we think is dodgy or we think, I don't know about this, we'll tell you. Yeah. But we will never read something on this show that we think is bullshit or that we know is bullshit. If someone sends us, there's one story that I didn't include here because it's really good. It's almost too good. And I thought, it's quite often when there's really specific dialogue and a lot of it that I start to think, I don't know about this. But yeah, so if you hear a story on this show, unless we tell you otherwise, it is something we believe to be true.
So our last story for tonight is from Vince. And Vince says, so I grew up in Tennessee in a very rural community. My parents and my father in particular were believers in paranormal phenomena. It was probably a good thing, since as a kid, I had several vivid memories of a particular past life and stories of what I did when I used to be big. It probably drove my poor mother batty trying to deal with the questions about it and the parts that I couldn't remember. One thing to know about my mum, she was what I would now call a young soul. Fun, lively, social, and loved being around people. After she and my dad divorced, she really enjoyed going dancing with her friends, going to concerts and generally having a good time. Boredom was not in my mother's skill set. At any rate, time passed as it does, and just before the turn of the century, my mum passed away unexpectedly of an undiagnosed cancer. It was a shock to me and my sibling, and we had a rough time trying to settle everything, and in the process, we discovered that some of Mum's important possessions had gone missing. We looked everywhere, asked her friends, and even checked the local pawn shops. Hey, you never know. Nothing. To this day, it's a mystery. About this time, I began having dreams about my mum every few months. Sometimes they were really just dreams, complete with surreal dream logic. Others, though, had a different quality. They were more realistic and lucid, like visits. We'd chat about mundane things, catch up on family news, and generally just shoot the breeze. A few times I tried to ask about the missing items, but she just clammed up, and so I stopped asking. About this time, I decided that these visitations were just my subconscious trying to process the grief. Mum couldn't tell her where her things was because I didn't already know. About 2 or 3 years after her death, and after I'd not had a visitation dream for a few months, she came back for another chat. I don't remember everything we talked about, but I do remember near the end when she said, "Well, the real reason I'm here is to tell you I'm bored. I'm ready to go get started on the next time around, so I won't be here with you when you get here. Just remember that I love you, and I want you to be happy." I woke up feeling a little sad, but mostly at peace with her deciding to move on. And since then, I've only ever had actual dreams about her, but never again had one of her visits.
I actually really like the idea that people can move on and do other things, because one of the problems I've always had with the heaven notion is the problem everyone's had, right? It's like you watch The Good Place and they nail some really good questions. How would that work? How would perfection for all time work? There would be boredom at some point. If you were all just jumping around on clouds, eating froyo with Kristen Bell, I mean, it's hard to imagine getting bored, but at some point it's going to happen.
Yeah, it looks boring.
That's it. So I think it makes more sense that the life after this would be about continuing to evolve and probably in ways that we would have a difficult time comprehending in this life.
And transcend to a higher form.
Mick Hucknall.
The randiest red-headed man from Manchester. Mucky Mick.
Literally the first name that came to my mind. I don't know. I don't even know where it came from. Thank you to everyone who wrote in. Again, we appreciate all of you. I imagine some of you are probably still not listening to the show because some of these emails are quite old, but we thank you all the same. Again, I wanted to cover as many of these as we could because there's some fantastic stories. And I say sometimes things just get missed. It's not personal, but I am thrilled that we got to them. And I thank every single one of you for sharing. If you want to find us, we are on Instagram as The Ghost Story Guys. We're on Facebook as The Ghost Story Guys Cabin, or just our Facebook page, The Ghost Story Guys Podcast. We're on Reddit as r/Ghost Story Guys Podcast. And we have a private Discord that you can get access to by signing up to our Patreon. Click the link in the show notes or head to patreon.com/Ghost Story Guys. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Hey there, listeners. Before you reach for that skip 15 seconds ahead button, I promise you this isn't an ad. we wanted to take a minute to talk to you about mental health. On this show, I've always tried to be as honest and open as possible about my struggles with depression and anxiety, because even though we've come a long way towards acknowledging the very real damage these things can do, there is still way too much lingering stigma about reaching out for help. And when you start to feel like there's no help, it's easy to start feeling like there's no hope. But Paul has joined me today to remind you there is always hope and there's always help.
We're not going to try and talk you out of self-harming right now, because we know that's not how it works. Instead, what we wanted to do was tell you something now and hope that should things get bad, you'll remember it and make a phone call or send a text message before you make any permanent decisions. As someone who knows all too well just how important mental health can be, it's never too late to reach out.
In Canada, the number to call is 133-456-4566. In the USA, the new number to call is 988. That's 988.
In the UK, the number to call is 116123 or text SHOUT, that's SHOUT, to 85258. In Australia, the number to call is 131114.
However bad shit seems, it will pass. And no matter what your brain might be telling you at any given moment, and believe me when I say I know this intimately, there are people who love you and people who care deeply about how you treat yourself. Should a time come when you find yourself despairing, please know that we've both been where you are, and there is a way back to the world. Take care. Welcome back. The Ghost Story Guys are Luke Greensmith, who helps us find our stories. He's also host of the Luke Lore podcast, available everywhere fine podcasts live.
Our paranormal conductor is Mr. Brennan Storr.
And of course, my friend and co-host is the one, the only, the inimitable Paul Bestel, the paranormal Johnny Carson himself, host of Mysteries and Monsters. Paul, what's coming up on M&M?
I welcome back the 40 Times television reviewers, Stu and Ruth, to dive in to the latest weird offerings which we are watching, and I will try not to swear a lot when I talk about Britain's X-Files.
Fantastic. And where can everyone find you online?
You can find Mysteries and Monsters across most social media platforms and all podcast sites.
Fabulous. I'm largely the truth on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Letterboxd. You can find my horror fiction show, Fear Daily, which is co-authored with Brandon Scheck-Snyder, everywhere fine podcasts live, and you can find me reading audiobooks on Audible. And I found out that Strange Little Place is on Kindle Unlimited, so if you want to read that motherfucker, but you don't want to pay for it, do it on Kindle Unlimited. Paul, my friend, do you have any guest spots coming up?
Not at the moment, no.
All right. Neither do I. I was on an episode of Where Did the Road Go a while back. I don't know if that's available for the public yet, but if not, it should be out soon. But of course, you can find all of our guest spots archived at ghoststoryguys.com or right there on the blog. Just click where it says guest spots, and there are embedded players for pretty much all of them. So again, that's ghoststoryguys.com.
Yes. If you're going to invite me, you better do it soon, because I'm going to be drunk for 6 weeks in June and July, everyone.
Oh, yeah, we got to figure out someone to cover for you while you're out.
I'll be all right.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll still rave, I was drunk. It'll be fine. I'm sure I'll only be missing something like Côte d'Ivoire versus Suriname. I'll work around it.
Okay. Well, I'm sure we'll figure it out.
I did last World Cup, but that were in bloody crappy December. It was rubbish. So I'll be all right.
As we said at the top of the show, we couldn't do this without our patrons and Apple Podcast subscribers. You are the ones who make the dream possible. And if you would like to get access to early ad-free episodes, bonus conversations between myself and Paul, a huge back catalog of additional bonus material, as well as our monthly live stream and our Ghost Force shoutouts, click the link in the show notes or head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. That's patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. That will also get you access to our exclusive private Discord, which has been a ton of fun. And I have really enjoyed, and I regret waiting as long as I did to implement it.
What's that?
Again, you get all of that. It's a thing inside the computer. We'll talk about it.
Okay, good. When I get a chance, I might have a look again.
It's fine. Eventually, they're just going to come for you and make you use it. So it's...
Yeah, people calling me out on it. What's going on?
I'm telling you. Tag Paul in the Discord. I think he's in there. He'll get the notification or he won't. We'll see.
I've signed up for it. I know that much. And then I just looked at it going, what does this all mean? Okay, now. What's going on here?
Dav, when you're at the pub, explain this shit to him, would you?
I'm seeing Dav tomorrow.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Dav, explain it to him.
It's quiz night.
There you go. In between questions, explain Discord to Paul, would you? For all of that, click the link in the show notes, head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys, or become a cabinista over on Apple Podcasts. As we said, if you have a story to tell, we want to hear it. ghoststoryguys@gmail.com. You can also fill out the form on our website at ghoststoryguys.com. You can also record yourself telling the story if you want. I know we have one of those in the hopper yet, and we are always open for more. The ghost line is gone, but your voice can live on. Just record the voice note in your phone and send it to ghoststoryguys@gmail.com. And speaking of Ghost Story Guys, we have t-shirts, mugs, stickers, all kinds of goodies. You'll find all of that at ghoststoryguys.com. Please rate and review us on iTunes, Spotify, everywhere you can. It will help boost the show. And if you can think of a friend who might like what we do, send them our way. We would very, very much appreciate it. Our theme song, Radio, Into the Darkness We Go, is composed and performed by Peter Kursov of Pizzanta Music. Find more from him by searching for Pizzanta Music wherever you get your tunes. And I think that's going to do it.
We'll be back next week. But until then,
Into the darkness we go. Who doesn't? Who would not? Who among us has not had some alone time with Alan Quatermain?
do you want to come and look for King Solomon's mines with me?
I have mental health problems. I'm having like the worst day today, but I haven't done an anti-Semitism. Watching Article 370, again, it's like a rip from the headlines kind of pulp thriller about, the Indian things changing in the Indian government control of Kashmir, all this stuff. And very clearly, there'd be these moments where someone would be dressing like a very famous Indian politician, and the crowd would just roar, and I would have no idea what's going on.
Modi.
None
Modi,
whatsoever.
Modi. Modi.
So Modi turns up in Durandar. And again, everyone's like, whoa! And I'm like, I guess. Didn't think I'd be 1 a.m, hearing everyone shout Narendra Modi's name, but here I am.